Hello everybody, Road Warrior 627 here, and welcome back to another video here on my channel. Today we're doing something a little bit different and a kind of video that I've only done once on my channel before, and that is a sort of recap or review. Now the last time I did this was last year, kind of a midsummer racing report, which I did with the guest I'll be introducing in just a moment. But this year it was his idea that got me to do it for the 2022 Belmont Spring Summer Meet. A meet that, for the first time in a while, I actually do want to recap because I actually managed to do pretty well. So I don't mind talking about it. It was a really fun time. We went out to the racetrack 7 times and did really well 4 of those 7 times, and then had some nice hits from home as well. So some really good performances. We'll talk about stakes performers. We'll talk about how we did, and we'll talk about how the results of this meet translate into Saratoga and the rest of the year. Before that, I just want to quickly mention, I told you in the last video, which was the Stars and Stripes video, a video that wound up being pretty good for the first time in a while. One Turn Route Episode 8, which I've been talking about for a month plus now. The greatest schism in horse racing, the racetracks versus the fans. I still can't do that yet because Naira has not made a certain announcement that I'm waiting for. So I'm still going to have to wait on that. And I'm also thinking about changing the title of the video to just specifically deal with Belmont, because I was pretty much going to talk about Belmont anyway, because that's the track I go to the most. But you will see that video at some point once Naira gets their act together and announces something. But that's enough for the housekeeping business. Let's get into the topic at hand, reviewing this 44-day meet. And just like last year's recap show, it's Jack Sargent of Racing Rundown joining me tonight. Jack, how are you?
I'm doing all right, and I will very much second you. This was a meet that, for a large portion of it, looked like it was going to be very much of a mixed bag, but we really put it together the last couple of weeks of it, and I wasn't as fortunate as you were in terms of being able to turn a profit, but very, very productive meet by the end of it and the way things ended off. So I very much like you am going to have fond memories of this meet, and I'm looking forward to getting into some of the recaps of this because I obviously wasn't at the racetrack as much as you were, but I had plenty of good times there, and obviously a lot of good results to look back on from this meet.
Oh, absolutely. And what I'm planning on doing is splitting up this video into a few parts. First, I'm going to talk about the main themes of the meet and how the fan experience went. So we're going to start with some negatives right away. Then we're going to talk about the performances of the meet. We're going to talk about number one big stakes races that were run and talk about them, who won them, and what it means going forward. And then we're going to talk about some of the sentimental things that happened in some smaller races as well. And then at the end, we'll talk about our cumulative betting results and looking forward to Saratoga, which just started, and the rest of the year. For context, this video is being recorded the night of Friday, July 15th, so Saratoga has already started, and this video will be up the following day. You'll be listening to this, if you're early as possible, on Saturday, July 16th. So that's where we stand right now. Let's talk about the meet in general with the fans. And this was the second year that fans were back at Belmont since Corona, which of course was a very good thing. And it was the first year that the backyard kind of got back to a little resemblance of normalcy. Now, this year, of course, we didn't just reclaim the area that went to the Islanders VIP parking lot and the duck pond and all that, but I will give Naira credit for two things here. And the first one has to do with the backyard. They really renovated the section behind the paddock, which used to be pretty underutilized. There was a tent back there. Now there's a lot of benches, picnic tables, TVs, cornhole, trees, a real resemblance of the old Belmont Park. That was nice to see. Jack, did you manage to find your way back there at all?
I did, and I would I didn't get as much time back there as I would have liked to, but when we walked back at that area, actually on Belmont Stakes Day, me and a couple of the production people from WRHU, I noticed that it was very nice, and what Naira had put together for it, I thought that obviously it wasn't going to replace what they took away back with the Islander stuff, but I thought that they did a good job of building that area up. So I would certainly second your opinions on that.
Yeah, so that was a good thing. Let's talk about a couple of bad things, and I'm going to be talking about this stuff in the next episode of One Turn Round as well. And we kind of already grilled them, me and Sammy, in the meet preview about this, because of course they announced it before it started. But Naira is kind of treating the fans at Belmont like second-class citizens. It's really not good. And none of this stuff really affects me that much. It's not going to change much of anything I do, but I thought it's pretty stupid, and obviously they're trying to get money. So what they did this year for the first time is they limited coolers in the backyard to 12 by 12 by 6, which is a personal sized cooler, and also said no outside booze, no outside alcohol, which was a tradition at Belmont for God knows how many years. People used to bring in cases of beer, and you know what? I never really saw it much as being a problem. To me, this is just an obvious ploy to get people to A, either go to the top of the stretch area where they're forcing you with the big coolers or the outside alcohol, or B, just buy their stuff inside and pay a boatload of money. I don't. Can you think of any reason, Jack, that they would do this other than money? It doesn't make any
Nope,
sense.
nope. It's purely for the profits.
Yeah, and they cited the smaller backyard as a security concern. Doesn't that make things more visible?
I would think so.
Any rational person would. So that's not good. Let's talk about a couple other things. Pocket programs, they don't even print the big programs anymore. Those are still $4. I think that's way too much. Belmont Stakes Day, the programs were $8. I mean, that was just a joke. $8 for a freaking post parade program. Really, really bad. And even the escalators, they were lazy with turning the escalators on, especially the last 2 days of the meet. The escalator from the second to the third floor was just non existent. So I found that pretty bad. But the second thing I will give them credit for is they did eventually open the third floor, which we were worried about them not doing. Of course, they need to open it for the Belmont Stakes, but on Man of War Day, it was closed. And we were really worried they weren't going to open it except for Belmont Stakes weekend. Well, they opened it starting the weekend before the Belmont Stakes, and they left it open. That's really the greatest view that you can get at any sporting venue ever. I will say maintain that until the day I die. The third floor at Belmont is awesome. You need to go there if you've never experienced it. And Naira, hey, if you don't want the third floor completely open and want people going around to different places in there and hiding things or whatever they might be doing, just rope off every other area except for those sections on the third floor grandstand near the finish line. 3J through about N. I think those sections will just be fine. That's where everybody sits anyway because you're right near the finish line. And forget the clubhouse. We want to sit on the grandstand side so we get the horses right before or as they hit the finish line. Just please keep those sections open. Those are the ones that matter the most. So hopefully they will take that information going forward. So that's all I've got about the fan experience. Let's review the meet a little bit. And it started way back on Thursday, April 28th. And the meet started well for me. The first race was this horse Rheaume for Michael Dickinson winning first time out. Rheaume has run a few good races since then, just ran a big long race on the turf on Sunday. Unfortunately did not win and didn't make me any money, but ran a very good race once again. That's pretty much all she's been doing. So that was nice to see. It started the meet off well. And then a couple days later was the Elusive Quality, which was won by Scuttlebuzz for Rudy Rodriguez. Today at Saratoga, they just ran a stakes race in which Scuttlebuzz did not run well in, but there were a few other horses in there that did run okay. In fact, the Christophe Clement horse, who I believe finished worse, was City Man. And what did City Man come back to do today, Jack?
City Man won that stakes race, the Forbidden Apple that you referenced.
That's absolutely right. A race that, fun fact, used to be held at Belmont. Do you have any other thoughts on what happened very early in the meet, Jack? I'm not sure if you do.
No, unfortunately, that first week of the meet, I wasn't on Racing Rundown because I was stuck finishing papers for finals, so we didn't cover anything early on in the meet at Belmont. So unfortunately, I was left out up until Derby week. And the one note I will put out there is we actually delayed Racing Rundown's Kentucky Derby preview episode because we were waiting for stakes at Belmont, because in 2021 those were very profitable for us. And at least in terms of the size and quality of the field, I was very disappointed at the stakes, quality of the stakes fields that they put out on Kentucky Derby Day at Belmont.
Yeah, but I do have to mention one of those one of those races was the Fort Marcy, and Chad did it again. He had 3 horses in the race, and his longest price with Eric Cancel won at 10-1, going to the lead. It was almost a carbon copy of what happened last year with Tripavan.
It was literally the same race that was the 2021 Fort Marcy. The exact same thing happened. It was hilarious.
Except this time he also ran second too, so I got the exact as well. But thank you very much, Chad, for pulling your thing. I really appreciate it. So
yeah, the note for the future is if you're looking at the Fort Marcy on Kentucky Derby Day, you always want to bet the lone speed Chad. Usually, obviously in these last 2 years, ridden by Eric Cancel, but make sure you bet Chad lone speed in the Fort Marcy, because past couple of years the race has been run the exact same way, and Chad paid nicely. I had Tribuvan last year. You had L'Imperador this year, and very profitable on both ends.
Absolutely.
And just one other note, just because I pulled the chart up to look at this, they were the exact same price. So they both paid $22. They both paid $22.40. They both won by a length and a half. It is literally the exact same race.
Now, I've talked about deja vu on Twitter before, but wow, that is deja vu. So next we're going to talk about the first big day, I guess, of 3 big days during the meet, and that one is the Man O' War card on Saturday, May 14th. This was the first day I was at the track, and it was that day I alluded to where the third floor was not open. But it was a very good day of racing. We had 5 stakes races, and the first one on the card was the Vagrancy Handicap, won in a thriller by Bella Sophia over the horse I played, Frank's Rocket. Of course, I had to lose by a nose. Bella Sophia is just a really good horse, and I'd imagine she's going to be running up at Saratoga, trying to get a second. What's that big race up there for the fillies? Why am I drawing a blank?
The ballerina.
That's correct. The ballerina, which I believe is still on Travers Day.
No, actually, they moved it to this year for some reason. They moved it to the Sunday after Travers, because the thing that I was kind of, at least from a podcast perspective, Saratoga spread the stakes out a little bit more. So from a fan perspective, it's better because you have you have more balance in terms of the amount of stakes races on particular days. So from a fan perspective, it's better to have the ballerina a grade 1 the day after the Travers. But from a podcast perspective, it's annoying because I have to delay episodes to account for that race. But that was something that is new for this Saratoga this year, and definitely did surprise me, at least.
Well, I'd have to imagine that has to do with Martin Panza leaving Naira last year, because he was a big fan of stacking the cards.
That is probably that. You're probably exactly right as to why that's the case.
Yep. Okay, let me see the other stakes races here. So the Runhappy Stakes was won by Drafted, who I don't believe we've seen from since then. At least I haven't seen him. Maybe he went to go run somewhere else. I'm not quite sure. Officiating was in that race and just came back to win the Cornhusker at Indiana.
Yeah, he won the Cornhusker at Prairie Meadows.
Prairie Meadows, I'm sorry. Yeah, so that was a funny stretch out for him. You'd think he was a sprinter based on what he did at Aqueduct for us earlier in the year. Not a stakes race on May 14th, but the best race of the day was the seventh race, in which Listen to Your Heart, the first time gelding for Christophe Clement, came off the layoff and paid us big money with Rudy running second. That was a great race. We're in the winner's circle picture for that race. Me and my dad just need to throw that in there. So that was the first. Actually, no, it wasn't the first big score of the meet. I'm gonna go back to May 1st after this, just for a quick second. But yeah, Listen to Your Heart was important. Right after that was the Man of War, and I was stupid enough to not wheel Listen to Your Heart with the whole field. I could have had another $200+ because guess who won the Man of War? Highland Chief.
Yeah, the biggest surprise of the Belmont of this past Belmont meet, definitely not in terms of mathematically the biggest surprise or the biggest upset, but just in terms of the way the dynamics of that race played out. And I'm not going to be saying a whole lot about Man of War card because I had a very good Belmont meet. The exception and the thing that dragged down my percentages, which were very good, but they could have been a lot better if I didn't do so bad on Man of War Day. I got shut out, and the icing on the cake of that was, of course, Jaipur, who is one of my favorite horses in training, losing in that race, but comes over, doesn't break at all, and then just running up short there behind Highland Chief and Clement's Gouffo in there. So that was, for me, just, it made sense when you look at the fact that he didn't break, but just in terms of Jaipur coming over here, you expect Charlie, especially Charlie Appleby having a very high percentage in 2021 in the U.S. You expect a horse like Jaipur to be ready to fire. Didn't have any problems at Belmont last September, and it was just an off race for him. Fortunately, he came back and won at Newmarket last week, so he's much better than that Man of War effort, and we're expecting to see him come to Saratoga, hopefully be back here in the fall for the Turf Classic. So get 2 starts into the Breeders' Cup, and hopefully we'll be able to get him to win both of those. But definitely, at least from my perspective, the biggest surprise or upset of the last meet, and I could be wrong, that might be the biggest mathematical upset in a stakes race. I don't know who was higher, him or Tribhuvan. I don't have the chart in front of me, but at least that's my thoughts on the Man of War.
I don't know about the cents in terms of the odds, but they were both 19-1. So
Yeah, I knew they were both. I knew they were both 19. I'm not sure how the cents work out.
I have no idea, and I'm not bothering to look at the charts. Somebody else out there can do that instead. Highland Chief did come back to run a respectable fourth in the Manhattan, and Gouffo, of course, ran third in the Manhattan because that's pretty much what we figured he would do. He'd come running late, but not quick enough. After that was the Peter Pan, but won by We the People in wire-to-wire fashion. He came back 4 weeks later and ran fourth in the Belmont and just couldn't get the 1.5 miles. Pretty much that's all I could say for him. I think he will still be okay in the summertime races, and he'll have a chance if he can slow the pace down.
That's pretty much the exact read I had on him. I think that We the People is a good 1.25 mile type. I think he's very similar to Tizelaw, and Tizelaw did plenty of good running at 1.25 miles. So I think you'll see more of that from We the People. Obviously, the Travers up to this point is coming up very strong. So I'm very much excited for that, as I'm sure most of you out there would also be. And we'll just have to see how everything ends up playing out with that. But I think We the People's a good Travers type. But as we'll obviously talk more about the Belmont. But Andrew's certainly right. Ran a credible race there, just too far for him.
And then the last big race on that card was Rheaume winning the Beaugay at very short odds. She would not come back to run well next time in the New York. In fact, Bleecker Street, another Chad Brown horse, would win, and Chad Brown's Rabbit would also beat her. However, she's coming back in today's, when you're watching this video, today's Diana. So we will see how she does amongst 3 other Chads in that race, and 2 others, including one for Charlie Appleby. Let me just go back to May 1st quickly, Jack. I just want to point something out. up until Stars and Stripes Day, which was last week, May 1st, when I played from home, was the best gambling day I ever had. And the main component of that was this horse, Canisy. First time starter for Christophe Clement, beating Contemporary Art, who's owned by Bobby Flay. And Bobby Flay had Christophe train Pizza Bianca. So that exacta was hilarious. Then Chad was third, Bill Mott was fourth. So I had all the exotics. It was absolutely wonderful. So we got the whole thing. I had money to win. And then also, this was the first triple play pick 3, a bet that I totally dumped on in the meet preview. But I singled Pratt. I used both Clements. And then I singled Chad in the last race. And I managed to hit the first triple play pick 3 that I totally dumped on a few days before here on YouTube. So that was a hell of a day. And it was the second, it still is the second most amount of money that I've ever won in one day. So that was a really happy memory early in the meet on May 1st. Let's skip ahead now to another day where I was at the track. On Saturday, June 4th, we had the Pennine Ridge, which was won in wire-to-wire fashion by Emmanuel, setting really slow fractions. I believe Pratt was riding in that race, and I think he went something like 51 to the half. He scratched from the Belmont Derby just recently and could have absolutely affected the race because Classic Causeway got an easy lead, and he managed to wire the field at 26 to 1. So if Emmanuel was in there, things could be different. What do you think about Emmanuel going forward, Jack, into the summer Saratoga Derby if he comes back for that and beyond?
I think the read that I got on the race, or at least on the Belmont Derby, well, first of all, I mean, Emmanuel is very well bred for the turf, so switching him back from the turf, or switching him back from the dirt after the Kentucky Derby experiment didn't work out with him, definitely made a lot of sense. And you're absolutely right. He affects the Belmont Derby. I don't think he wins the Belmont Derby, though. I think that my original theory as to how the race was going to play out was him and Classic Causeway were going to go out there, soften each other up, and I think you would have seen Europe 1-2 in that Belmont Derby, but we'll obviously be able to talk about that a little bit more later. But Saratoga Derby certainly is on the table for him. We'll need to see what Europe looks like and what the pace setup looks like between him and Classic Causeway. But I think that he's got a very good shot to, at the very minimum, hit the board in the Saratoga Derby. And, you know, if you're someone who believes he's that much better than Classic Causeway, grade 1 win is not out of the realm of possibility for him at Saratoga in a month's time.
Okay, and after that, we've got the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival, 3 days. Unfortunately, this year, I was only able to go on Belmont Stakes Day itself. Last year, I was able to go all 3 days. But whatever, it's the way it was with my work schedule. Jack, did you want to talk about any of the races on Thursday or Friday? I pretty much mentioned the New York already, which was won by Bleecker Street. So she's coming back in the Diana today. Rougier is coming back in the Diana. I don't think Technical Analysis was in the New York.
No, she was not.
And who's that fourth horse today in the Diana? Do you happen to remember off the top of your head?
In Italian.
In Italian. So in Italian was in the Just a Game. So we're going to talk about that anyway in a minute. So, yeah, Bleecker Street just wins. That's my comment on the New York.
Yep, that's pretty much the read that I had on Bleecker Street. The one thing that I will mention from Belmont Stakes Friday was one of, not my best hit of the meet, but one of the better hits that we had in terms of podcast on the meet, and that was getting the racing rundown exacta in the Belmont Gold Cup. I had loft. Eric had British Royalty there. That exacta paid $49. Of course, one of the few times that I actually bet the exacta and it pays, because I have a nasty habit of not betting the exactas that actually hit and then betting the ones that don't hit. But fortunately, one of the times that I did play the exacta and it did hit, I was able to cash that out and was very, very good. So that was one of my better hits of the meet. And personally, my personal favorite hit of the meet was that exacta, just because I do like when we get those exactas there. And also just because of being on track the morning or the morning before. So Thursday morning when at WRHU Radio when we had our Belmont Stakes preview show there. Loft was working out on the main track while we were there, and getting to see him physically. I'd already picked him, so I wasn't going to change the pick, but seeing him physically really sent home the message of, yeah, this is the horse to go with in there. So that's my favorite thing that happened this meet in terms of stuff collectively on the podcast. He's not my best winner or best board hitter or anything like that, but it was something that I did really appreciate getting to have there, because it was certainly a very nice one to have. Also, the first 2-mile race that I had seen. I have seen a steeplechase race at Saratoga, but just traditional, not traditional flat race, longer than a mile and a half race. So that was also something cool to see for the first time.
Yeah, I had that exacted too. I boxed the two of those horses with the other European, and luckily it came in 1-3. Also had a little bit on Loft to win, which didn't pay much because people rightfully bet that horse down. So that's really all I have to say there. It was a good Friday of racing. Would have been a lot better if Mr. Brendan Walsh did not get second in the New York Stakes. Would have paid a lot more in there. But at least that 2-mile exacta definitely made the day less painful. June 11th was the best Belmont Stakes day I ever had. It was just so much fun and such a good time. It didn't seem that way for a while. And it kind of started off a little weird when Echo Zulu scratched from the Acorn. And, of course, Matarea walked at 2-5 or whatever she was. Are both of those coming back for the CCA Oaks?
Don't think either of them are, actually, which is very, very interesting. I can check the nominations, but I don't think Echo Zulu was nominated for it. And I'd be surprised if Matarea was, because I think they're both looking for the test.
That's probably a smart idea by both of them, because I think that's probably where they'll excel at their best. Neither of them are beating Nest in the Alabama at a mile and a quarter. So, good luck with that. The Just a Game was the next stakes race on the card, and this was a dominant effort by Regal Glory. She's just damn good.
Yes, she is. I had a comment from her after she won the Jenny Wiley at Keeneland, and I said she was going to have a rushing fall type year. But what I mean by that was she was going to go on a streak and win a bunch of Grade 1s. And of course, as soon as I say that, I jump off her because Speak of the Devil won very impressively on Kentucky Derby Day in the Distaff Turf Mile there, and I ignored what I said about Regal Glory at Keeneland, and she did exactly what I said she was going to do post Keeneland. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get the benefit there, but that was a very, very good victory from Regal Glory. She's targeting the 4-star Dave. I'm excited to see her there. I have not been impressed at all with any of the milers on the male side this year, so I think that Regal Glory will. I am not picking the race right now. I don't pick races this far out, and things could change. But I at this time I have a difficult time seeing how she doesn't win that race.
And of course, Got Stormy would say that there should be no problem with a mare winning that race. Right after that was the Brooklyn Handicap, which Lone Rock just did not show up in that race anywhere where he should. I mean, Warrant beat him, for Christ's sake. And Warrant's okay, but he's not a mile and a half Lone Rock. Fearless had a very nice effort in here. I was surprised he didn't come back for Todd in the Suburban. I'm not sure where he's going next, but that was a pretty surprising, I thought, and good run by Fearless in the Brooklyn.
Yep, you're exact. I'd say the exact same things. I don't know what the next target for Fearless is going to be. Your guess is as good as mine, but also didn't expect him to improve that much in a mile and a half. But he certainly did that there. And if they want to try a race like the Birdstone, go ahead. If they want to cut him back for a mile and a quarter, I think I'm not crazy about. There's not too many horses this year that you look at and you say, okay, that horse is absolutely a force going a mile and a quarter. So if Fearless is truly a really good mile and a quarter horse, then obviously the Jockey Club Gold Cup would be right for the taking for him toward the end of the Saratoga meet. But time will tell with him, I think.
Yeah, and of course, Pletcher's going to probably be pointing Dynamic One toward that race, you would think, as well, eventually. And then we've got the sixth race on that card was the Woody Stevens. that to me was the most impressive performance of the day by anybody. Just objectively speaking, I was sitting right where Jack Christopher started his acceleration. I actually didn't take my binoculars off of him. I just zoomed out a little bit and I saw Jose Ortiz just slightly move his hand, and I saw his quick burst of acceleration, and that was one of the coolest things I ever saw at the racetrack. Jack Christopher is going to be a force in any race he runs in. I agree with you. We were talking before this video, Jack. I don't know if he wants beyond a mile and an eighth, but up to and including a mile and an eighth. For instance, he's targeting the Haskell right now. Good luck.
Yeah, I had a similar experience to Andrew. I watched the race from the winner's circle on Belmont Stakes Day, so I didn't really see a whole lot of what Jack Christopher did in the race just because of the obstruction that are there down watching on track level in the winner's circle. But he walked past me in the winner's circle. He wasn't blowing it at all. Like, it looked like they could put him back in the gate. He could do the exact same thing, if not win by an even bigger margin. So if there wasn't a certain other jet plane that ran later on the card, that would have been the most blown away post race that I'd ever been by a horse in terms of the way that they came off the racetrack. But it was incredible. Jack Christopher is very good. I was very late to the party giving him his respect, but it finally time for me to, even though I did pick him in that race, I was very cynical on him up to and including on Kentucky Derby Day for him. That post Pat Day Mile, it was finally time for me to shut up. And fortunately, I did give him his respect before the Woody Stevens, and he's earned every bit of it up to this point.
Okay, and after that was the Phipps, and this is a race that was funny, it was hilarious, and there's a little bit of hidden meaning, I think, in this race. First of all, as I'm going to use a quote from my cousin Vinny, Jack, you and Eric are dead on balls accurate that Latruska, if she takes any kind of real intense pressure, she's toast. She just can't do it. She needs that easy lead, and Jose's brother Irad decided to give it to her right out of there for whatever reason, and I know we've thought about reasons as to why, but whatever the reason was, search results went after her, and search results almost won this race. Search results, to me, ran the best race in here, but there was no way after pushing Latruska like that she was going to hold on. And here comes Maladot and Couturier, and let's just say things would have been a lot better if Maladot won this race for both of us.
Yeah, well, things would have been a lot better for you if Maladot would have won. I actually was an idiot and picked Latruska in the race because, like everybody else in the building, I was thinking, okay, well, there's no way in hell that Irad's going to go out and press Latruska with search results, and who else is the speed in there? So that was the exact logic that I had for picking Latruska in there. And if you listen to Racing Rundown for any length of time, you know before the Breeders' Cup, we were pounding on the drums of Latruska is just been handed every single race, all this stuff. Everything that we said was right, but we sold out on this before the Breeders' Cup. And then I kind of said, okay, well, the same thing that happened in every grade one that she had last year is going to happen in this race. That's why I picked her. And the story of, just the entirety of me watching this race and what ended up happening afterwards, it's the most real bizarre, bonkers, whatever word you want to use, racing experience that I've ever had. The 15 or so minutes, but it's probably less than 15 minutes, but the time between the running of the race, Maladot getting beat by Couturier in there, which was just an absolutely crushing defeat. And then because I was covering the Belmont Stakes with WRHU, I was watching the race in the winner's circle once again. So I am watching the race on the big board. I'm seeing the whole time, okay, the whole time I saw Couturier always going past her, but because Maladot fights, Maladot didn't give in at the 16th pole and instead decided to give in 3 strides before the wire. But anyway, Couturier gets up. So I'm absolutely crushed by that. You ask anybody who's in the winner's circle with me, it was very evident that was not a very pleasant defeat for me. And then Joel Rosario just happens to be in the winner's circle, so then I have to do my job and go talk to the jockey who just won the race. And the thing that's so funny about this is I'm talking to Joel Rosario, who just beat my favorite horse, one of my favorite horses ever, my favorite horse currently in training, and had to congratulate him and talk to him after the race about what he had just done in there. And the thing I've told everybody about this is I don't remember a word of what Joel Rosario said to me. And I wasn't, it wasn't like I was starstruck or anything by the fact I'm talking to Joel Rosario. I'm thinking in my head this entire time, how did that just happen? So it's one of the most bizarre, hilarious, and definitely not at all funny racing moments that I've ever had. And just another reason as to why the Belmont Stakes, at least for me, was such an enjoyable and not enjoyable at the same time experience, because Malathaat losing, even though I wouldn't have had any money on her and I would have picked against her on Racing Run and I would have had to wear that, I certainly did want her to win that race. And it was very, very disappointing when she did not win.
I echo everything you said, and I feel really bad for you. Let's talk about something better. The 8th race was the Jaipur Invitational, and this was the race of the day. Me and my family, people I came with, knew that going in, and we loved Casa Creed in this race. And boy, did he deliver. Those 2 races overseas, he did not have the best of chances in either of those. He ran monster races in both of those. And he came back to one of his favorite tracks. He got a masterful ride by Luis Saez down on the inside. You thought he was going to come up the rail, but then he couldn't get through, and he angled him out. And we boxed Casa Creed with the favorite, who was Ward's horse, Arrest Me Red.
Arrest Me Red.
True Valor for Grand Motion. We like Grand Motion too, and we knew that he would be the speed horse in there. I also used Scuttlebuzz because the elusive quality angle. That horse has not come back to run well in 2 subsequent starts, but whatever. I did include him as well. Didn't work, but the first 3 worked. The triple was very nice. And yeah, I had $15 to win. I had the triple. I had the exacta 5 times. It was just a really, really awesome race. I'm not in the winner's circle picture, but my dad and my friend Anthony are actually both pretty front and center, actually, in the winner's circle picture.
Yeah, it was not a very pleasant race for me, and 2 consecutive Belmont Stakes in a row where Casa Creed seemed like a really obvious pick for me, and I didn't pick him. I will say I took a ridiculous shot there with the horse, with a horse for Ken Ramsey, who ran 13th in the race. The horse that I would have picked, my second out, was not Casa Creed this year. In 2021, he was my second out horse. It was actually Motion's horse in there, and I would have been better off picking Motion's horse and running 3rd in there. So I certainly don't have the pleasant memories that I do of the Jaipur, and also I was still still fuming about what happened in the Phipps. So it was going to be impossible for me to enjoy the Jaipur really in terms of anything happening there. So fortunately, that was, if it was going to be the bad race, that was going to be the bad race that happened for me, at least because of the way the day worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. And Casa Creed, beast. I hope they try the 4-star Dave again, because I know they could run him in the Troy, but 5.5 is too short for him. I think if you're debating between 5.5 and a mile, he ran 3rd in it last year behind 2 really good horses. I would try the 4-star Dave again. Oh, there's an exacta for you. Chad's mare and Casa Creed. Maybe I'll play that in the 4-star Dave.
I think they will. If we're talking about the 4-star Dave, I think they will try the 4-star Dave. Bill Mott is very aggressive with trying to get grade 1s. He did get his grade 1 with Casa Creed, but Casa Creed needs distance. 5.5 is too short for him. A mile's not perfect, but he has more of a chance of winning at a mile than he does at 5.5. So I think they will try the 4-star Dave again. And Bill Mott is not afraid to get grade 1 placing. Other trainers, for some reason, just don't like getting grade 1 placings in races. It doesn't make any sense how certain trainers in this game just don't like to get grade 1 placings in races. Bill Mott, fortunately, is not like that. I do appreciate that he doesn't wimp out and not run horses in spots that may not be the easiest for them. So I think that they will.
Yep, I think that's got to be where they got to go. After that was the Met Mile. Flightline just decided to take off. in that race, despite the bad start, despite getting pinched back a little by Speaker's Corner. Didn't matter. Happy Saver ran sneaky good in there, running second, only 6 lengths behind a monster who I finally decided to give credit for. And I also gave him credit in my bets because I did include him in my pick 3. I mentioned that I would possibly include him on the video with Speaker's Corner in my Met Mile Manhattan Belmont Stakes pick 3, and it's a damn good thing that I did because that wound up paying some very good dividends for me, including Flightline. I told you if he won that race impressively, I'd believe in him. I still don't like the way he's being managed, but now, yes, I do believe in him.
Yeah, when I referenced a jet plane earlier, that's what I call Flightline the jet plane. I think that whenever he comes out on the racetrack, they should play the Top Gun anthem because that's just what Flightline is. Another example of a horse who he walked past me going into the winner's circle. Again, same thing as Jack Christopher, wasn't blowing at all. Looked like he could have gone back around the track, done more, gone even further, 1.25 miles, and still have won as impressively as he did there. So he's going to the Pacific Classic next. We'll see him 2 more times this year. They say that they want to bring him back next year. I will believe that they are bringing him back next year when I see him walk into a starting gate next year. I don't buy for a second that he actually will, but if he does, I'm certainly not going to complain about seeing a great horse run again. But certainly the Met Mile was an extremely impressive effort for him.
And then after that was the Manhattan Handicap, my favorite turf race. And this is something that I really didn't see coming because I thought Chad would send 2 horses out here. I thought he would send L'Imperador just like he did in the Fort Marcy and Tribovan. I did not see Tribovan going out there by himself just like he did last year, and he ran a damn good race in this race last year. Just ran into a buzzsaw stablemate in Domestic Spending, who arguably should have been champion American turf horse. We could argue about Jaipur, but the problem is Domestic Spending only had 3 starts last year, so he didn't really have enough. Aside from that, Tribovan, he went out there, he motored, and he won by a lot. This was a textbook example of a lead ride. Good job by Manny Franco. Chad Brown wound up being second, as my printer's deciding to have a seizure right now. Sorry about that. Adamo came up for second. 2 horses who ran over the Churchill Downs wonky turf course and did not run well came back and ran just fine at Belmont. $96 exacta for Chad in there. Tribovan was not 19-1 in all the other pools. He was only 19-1 in the win pool. He was about, 8-9-1 in mostly everything else. People knew that he could possibly wire this race. And he wound up not only doing it, but doing it in extremely impressive fashion. Unfortunately, my boy Channel Maker blew the brake, so we couldn't see what he was made of that day. We did get to see him later in the meet, as we'll talk about. But Tribovan, yeah, he's back and he's good.
Yeah, and I think he's nominated for I don't have the nominations in front of me, but I think he's nominated for the UN at Monmouth next weekend. So obviously he won that race last year, and he's very deadly when you hand him races like that. And given what happened in the trials at Monmouth, I see no reason how he's not going to get handed the lead again. And just as I'm talking, I did check. He is nominated for that, so we'll see how he ends up running there next weekend, as I assume that that's the spot that Chad is going to run him in. And he ran great there. I had him last year, obviously, in the Fort Marcy and then in that UN last year, and could have had him here, but I thought I decided to risk it with Highland Chief and see if he was going to back up the form from the Man of War. He gave a good account of himself there. He's another one that is running at Monmouth, and it'll be interesting to see if he's able to take it out, give another good account of himself there. I'm not sure if he's going to win. I'll have to obviously make that distinction when I see the race drawn, but it was a textbook run from him, and they're going to give him, he's going to win anything that you give him. And they gave him that. They obviously gave him the United Nations last year. They gave him the Fort Marcy. You give him stuff, he's going to win it. That's the type of horse that he's shown himself to be. Tribovan, just to make sure that folks know that that's who I'm referencing.
Yeah, if you give him stuff, he's going to run like that. I think he was going to win anyway, personally, Jack, just the way he ran. I don't know how they were going to get him, even if he was pressured a little bit. But
I'm not insinuating that he wouldn't have, but that's something that we know is that when you hand him races like that, just say goodnight.
oh,
Not
for
not a
sure.
chance.
Oh yeah, he's a monster on the lead. And then I know we spent the majority of the video on this card. Well, this is where most of the action was this meet. The Belmont Stakes, Mo Donegal. I'm so sad he's out for the year. I really thought he would be the best 3-year-old. This was the most confident pick I ever had in a Triple Crown race. Helped me get 2 out of the 3 Triple Crown races this year. He might have, I don't know if he would have won the Derby, but he could have been second or third in the Derby as well, so that could have went better. But Mo Donegal, I was so impressed at the top of the stretch. Unlike his other races where he grinded him out, he showed a little bit of acceleration at the top of the stretch and just blew by those horses and won comfortably. That was a great Belmont Stakes, great end to that pick 3 where I used the 2 favorites and then I spread like hell in the Manhattan with all the Chads and the 3 other horses I liked. But I singled Mo and Mo came through. Gotta go to Mo's.
I love Mo Donegal. He's Mo Donegal for on a sentimental note for me. He's the first horse that I've truly been able to follow through every progression of his career. We saw him in his 2 starts at Aqueduct, you and I, Andrew, in the Remsen, and then in the Wood Memorial. Unfortunately, didn't get to see him in the Kentucky Derby. He didn't win that, so didn't miss too much out there. And then time was the third time getting to see him was, I mean, not that he lost the 2 other times that we were there, but won the Belmont Stakes. Very nice to see. And the first horse that I can say really that I got to see their full progression of their career. Devastated that I'm not going to get to see him the rest of the year. I think they're going to bring him back. It sounds like everybody wants to bring him back, but I really hope that he does come back. And again, devastated that I'm not going to get to see him for the rest of the year. The other big thing is Nest running second in there. I kind of called it, or not kind of, I did call it a month out. I made a video after the Preakness, and I said, I've answered posed the question, could she win the Belmont? I said no, but I said she'd hit I think I went further than that and said she'd finish in the money in the Belmont Stakes. Fortunately, she did do that. And she ran second there. Didn't bet the exacta there because I was more focused on doing my job covering the race. I only had $2 to win on Mo Donegal here. Hindsight, I look back on this and I say I should have bet the exacta to all hell. I should have bet more money on Mo Donegal to win. And then obviously because Skippy Longstocking was my long shot horse in the Preakness, should have wheeled him back again there. Bunch of should have beens with there. Fortunately, the things that matter, Mo Donegal won. The Nest video ended up being the Nest video ended up aging very well, and we got to see Mo Donegal win for the 3rd time when we were at the racetrack.
Yep, and we've seen history. Donegal Racing and Rapoli have absolutely no problem, either of them, with bringing horses back for their 4-year-old year. So I'd actually be surprised if he didn't come back. So, yeah, we talked a lot about that card, but for good reason. A lot of good things to revisit there. Just want to quickly point out, Mason won the poker at short odds by, not that impressively, but did get the job done. Do you know where Mason is coming back?
I think Chad's also pointing him to I think Chad's pointing him with Regal Glory to the 4-star Dave. Good spot for him. He's probably the best of the males going a mile in America. I don't think very highly of any of them, so take that with. I should put that out there. Saying that he's the best of the males going a mile doesn't mean I'm complimenting him very much because I think it's a very average group. But that he could find himself winning a Grade 1 at some point this year. But I think come Breeders' Cup and 4-star Dave time, I think you'll see the better horses in terms of I think at this point I'd probably pick Regal Glory over him, and certainly I'd pick anybody from Europe and even some of the females in America who show up in the mile. But Mason could find himself in a Grade 1 winner's circle by the end of the year.
Okay, and the next day I want to talk about, and there's a bit of a somber note here. It's actually not a bit. I'm really, really sad and devastated. On June 26th, I made the most amount of money I ever made in one race. This first-time starter named Vindatude, she won the last race at Belmont in a pretty much a repeat of what happened on my birthday last year. Same pretty much day, Sunday, last race, first-time starter. Last year the bet was a little different. This year It was pretty much this horse, and then I boxed with the two favorites, and then one other horse who didn't show up in there. Vindatude went wire to wire. I'm my fist raised in the winner's circle picture back there. Just one of the greatest moments ever for me at the racetrack. To have $8 to win, the exacta, the triple, all in the hundreds, that was amazing. And it wound up being such a wonderful day, the day before my birthday. And I just found out a couple of days ago that Vindatude, 1 week after that race, was galloping up at Saratoga and had a heart attack and passed away. Just 1 week after, I'm absolutely at a loss. When I heard the news, I just had my head in my hands, my head down for like 10 minutes, and we're degenerate. I'm a degenerate gambler. Jack's not really a degenerate gambler, but I love horses. And to have something like that happen to a horse that made such a special moment for me really, really upset me. And there's a bigger problem too, because George Weaver, who owned and trained the horse, who owned and trained her, his wife, Cindy, was galloping Vindatude, and she, I believe, is still in a coma after that, all these days later. So we're praying for her, and just an absolutely terrible thing to come out of what was, at the time, for the race, such a really awesome thing. So I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This really turned into a horrible thing, and it made me very sad. At least we had the one good moment at the start of it, but I'm never going to forget this. And I just hope that George winds up okay out of this, and of course Cindy winds up okay out of this. Alright, so moving on from that bit of bad news, we're going to move on to Saturday, July 2nd, and talk about two impressive winners there. The Dwyer was won by the returning Charge It from the Derby for Todd Pletcher. This was when Todd was going on his little tear, reminding everybody that the Belmont main track is his home still. Charge It came back very nice. He'll be a force to be reckoned with as a late developing 3-year-old in the bigger races in the summertime. And then the John Nerud Life is Good came back off the Dubai, couldn't get mile and a quarter effort, and handled Speaker's Corner, who, again, like the Met, did not run a bad race, but just was no competition. Anything to say about those two races, Jack?
Really, I'm a little bit disappointed in Speaker's Corner in terms of I thought that he might be a little bit better, and that he could have run a lot closer to Life is Good. In that he's still a very good horse, and I hope he is. I'm kind of, I know that you don't really that you don't really like the dirt mile too much, and I'm sure a lot of people are rooting for the dirt mile to have a competitive field this year because it could, but I would not be upset if nobody shows up there and Speaker's Corner does just get to walk over a lighter field, because he does deserve to win a Breeders' Cup race, because he is very good in a year without Flightline and Life is Good. He's one of the best horses in America.
I hate the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. I can't stand it. But I also don't see how he wins either the Sprint or the Classic. So actually, I agree with you. I really wouldn't mind seeing that. That would be okay with me. Quickly, this was not a major stakes race, but it was a real feel-good, happy moment for me. The Grand Couturier, which was not run on Monday, July 4th, but was brought back on Friday, July the 8th. My boy Channel Maker got it done. I freaking love this horse. He's awesome. He fought it out, looked like he was going to lose, and he came back. I just love him. I know he probably can't win any of the other big races this year, but he's won 3 out of the 4 giant New York turf races already. The one he didn't ever get was the Manhattan, but he got the other 3, and he just got another win here. Doesn't really win that much when you look at the lifetime percentage, but he's really had a cool renaissance, and when he gets a chance to do his newfound thing on the lead, watch out. I fucking love him. And with that said, we are going to move on to the last big card of the meet, which wound up being the best day I ever had monetarily at the racetrack. It was Stars and Stripes Day. And we'll start out with the Suburban Handicap, where I pretty much agree with Jack. I pretty much think the first three horses, Dynamic One, First Captain, and Untreated, kind of all hung in the stretch.
Yeah, the Suburban was a very weird race to read coming out of it because they all looked like they were hanging. And again, I'm not going to kid myself and say that any of them are top level grade one horses. I did reference earlier in the video, there's not really too many horses that are pure mile and a quarter types. I think Happy Saver is better than Dynamic One. I think Happy Saver is probably the best horse in the Pletcher barn getting a mile and a quarter. And so I don't think any of these horses would beat Happy Saver. There's a couple other horses that I also think are pretty good going a mile and a quarter outside of that. And I also watched this through binoculars, so I might have been overanalyzing this. I did give them a little bit more credit on Racing Rundown than I did immediately to Andrew afterwards. And, I was had some very hot takes that in rewatching the race back post, which is why I never like to give opinions immediately following races because my opinions tend to change when I get time to digest the races. But I don't think that you're going to see a grade one come from any of these horses again. I think Happy Saver's better. Fearless is probably better than these horses at a mile and a quarter. Grade two is probably the limit for a horse like Dynamic One and First Captain. Untreated, I think maybe could steal a mile in an eighth graded stakes race. But probably this is the highlight of the year, I think, for Dynamic One and others.
Don't have much to say other than that. The seventh race was the Belmont Oaks, first leg of the Turf Triple for the fillies. And this wound up being a great race for me. You heard on the preview that I was doing two main bets. The real main bet was Boxing Chad and Appleby, which of course worked out fantastic. We had the triple in there, so that was great. The European one didn't work out. Who cares? The triple was very generous in this race, $152. The exacta was good. McCulloch kind of lived up to the billing of what people thought of her as a 2-year-old. Finally, in this race, consumer spending ran well too to be third. She probably should have been second in there. Whatever. I guess the money would have been about the same either way. With the Moonlight, ran good, very close to the lead for Appleby. Appleby finished second in both these turf triple races, and I know that him and Dwyer were probably very pissed off. A lot of Appleby's people looked sad after both races. They really thought they should have won.
Yeah, they were certainly not delighted after those two races. You knew I wasn't going to get through this race and not throw something like that in there. This was something that was very nice for me because obviously I had the winner in there, and I didn't do mistakes that I've been making at points in the past, and that is to rush to try to get something out for the podcast. And since I was doing the preview for the Belmont Oaks, and I also I didn't feel the need to rush it for Racing Rundown's episode, but it was also on your show, Andrew, and I didn't rush myself to try to have the pick ready. I took the time to analyze the race. I had it. I got it done. I got the winner there. And then also, I kind of called, also another thing that I kind of called post Epsom. I really liked With the Moonlight at Epsom, and she did not run at all there. And I was thinking, just if Appleby runs her in America, she could hit the board, if not win. Now, I was hoping William Buick was going to come over and ride her there, which is honestly the reason I didn't. And it's a good thing that I didn't pick her to win there because I wouldn't have had the winner in the race. But I should have bet the exacta. And I watched this race with one of my friends who's an owner, and he heard what I was saying about With the Moonlight before the race, and he was like, well, why the hell didn't you bet the exacta in there? So it certainly cost myself money there. I did have Chad boxed in there, so I was with Andrew hoping that consumer spending was going to get up there. Not that it would have paid too much, but I would have had something in there as opposed to not having anything, at least in terms of the exacta. But that race, I had a very good year with the Turf Triple last year. Great way to start it off. Pretty much calling, outside of Cairo Memories not lasting for third, pretty much calling everything. And With the Moonlight is one of the better opinions that I've given out this year because post Epsom, even though she ran awful, I held the faith in her, and I hope that she returns to Saratoga, and I am inclined to pick her at Saratoga, given how well she ran in at Belmont, and cutting back cutting back a half furlong, I think, is certainly going to do her some good things.
The race after that was the Victory Ride Stakes on the main track, 6.5, and I said on the show I was going to single Hot Peppers, and in the multi-race bets, that's what I did. I did single Hot Peppers. But Jack's horse intrigued me a little bit with the 3 straight wins. The number 3 horse, the name is escaping me right now. I'm sure you know.
Half is enough.
Half is enough. So I decided, well, it's a couple of bucks. I'll throw the exact in with Hot Peppers, and half is enough. And sure enough, it worked out just great for me. I'm sorry you didn't get the win, Jack. She hung a little bit in the stretch. But very big performance from Hot Peppers, who was up near a pretty fast pace. And half is enough, another very good showing.
Yeah, off the turn, I thought I had it, and Andrew said it. Half is enough, hung down the stretch. Hot Peppers ran through a very hot pace, no pun intended there, and she hung around really well. So she deserves a lot of credit for that effort. Again, disappointed I didn't get the win there, but board hitter, IRED was good to me. It's a mixed bag whenever I go to IRED, but IRED was good to me this Belmont or Stars and Stripes card. So no complaints from me for him on that front.
Yeah, shout out to Sammy, who also had this horse singled in the multis. Of course, Sammy is a regular guest on most of my shows as well. The Belmont Derby was the 9th race, and, well, we talked about that scratch of Emmanuel earlier in this race, and boy, that was a big factor because Classic Causeway went out there, not much pressure, and just kept on going. I thought at the top of the stretch, my pick, Napoleonic War, had a great chance. And then at the 3/16 to the 8th pole, that area there, he just decided that he wanted to stop running. And then here come the 2 Euros on the outside, the 2 notable ones, Appleby's horse and O'Brien's horse, and they just couldn't get him. It was something that originally I thought I really wasn't going to make much money from. I thought about 10 minutes before the race, well, I love the first-time starter, Frank Sart, in the 10th race. What if I'm wrong here, like just totally dead wrong, and then I could get a little bit more money with the horses I do like too? So I wheeled the whole race, all 12 horses, into Frank Sart in the 10th race. I'll talk about Frank Sart in a minute, but let's just say Classic Causeway started out that double at 26-1. I could have never had him. That was total luck.
I gotta say one thing. Shout out to Eric for a little note that he threw in at the end of Racing Rundown's episode last week, and this is one of the things that him and I were commiserating with each other. The fact that we don't get the opportunity to do our shows closer in proximity to the races, because Eric was, by the time of post time, Eric was all locked in on Classic Causeway, and unfortunately, we don't get the benefit of it for a Racing Rundown pick. Because Eric works for the New York Racing Association, he also couldn't bet the race, but he told me he was telling everybody to go bet Classic Causeway to win. And fortunately, I listened to that, and I remembered the thing that he said on Racing Rundown. I didn't talk to him before the race, but I remembered what he said on Racing Rundown about Classic Causeway. And as soon as Emmanuel came out, Classic Causeway's lone speed, I was at the teller and I was thinking, I've got an extra $1 here. Why the hell not just throw a buck on him to win? I did, so I didn't get the full $55 that he paid for this, but I did get half of what that was, so that certainly was a nice little thing to get. And I got to give him the shout out there, because it wasn't officially for Racing Rundown, because we did the video, but we did the podcast before before Emmanuel came out of the race. But I got to give props to Eric on that, because in our minds, Eric had the winner in there, and that was certainly the biggest winner that we've had. Probably the biggest winner I think ever in Racing Rundown, in terms of if that would have been official. But Andrew, you're probably right. I would agree with you in terms of luck of him winning the race, because Emmanuel came out of the race. Once Emmanuel comes out, Classic Causeway winning makes a whole lot of sense when you look at it in terms of who's going to be lone speed. If he's in there, I think they soften each other up in Nation's Pride and Stone Age run 1-2 there. Classic Causeway still hits the board. And obviously, if Nation's Pride would have won, that would have done me a whole lot better than it would have done than it did me. Even though monetarily, it did me more for Classic Causeway winning. Podcast-wise, it would have been beneficial to have the win in the Belmont Derby there. But to an extent, I do agree with you. Luck in terms of Emmanuel coming out of there produces a Classic Causeway Belmont Derby win. But I thought that this was a very strong effort for him. Eric has been a Classic Causeway truther the entire spring, summer. I always respected him, but I certainly wasn't quite there to the extent that Eric was. But I think that this is not a breakout effort, because Classic Causeway had already proven that he was a quality horse. But I think that this is okay, you have to respect Classic Causeway a lot more than you did going into this race type of effort.
And he ran well, too. And actually, Jack, when I was referring to luck, I was more referring to that double that I wheeled that I just happened to get a long price. That's really what I meant with the luck. Yeah, Emmanuel scratching, it was what it was. And I don't even think it was because the horse was hurt. I think it was for some other reason, right?
Yeah, the reason that he came out was they gave him an injection that they were supposed to give him 14 days out for, that once you gave the horse the injection, the horse couldn't race for 14 days, and they mistimed the day where they gave him the injection. So on Belmont Derby Day, the injection had been given 13 days prior, not 14 days prior. So somebody in Pletcher's barn screwed up and gave him the injection one day too late, and that's why he came out of the race. So it was anybody who was depending heavily on on Emmanuel there, very annoying note as to why he came out of the race, because it was purely human error, and very avoidable human error at that.
Yeah, we had a race at Belmont earlier in the meet where Lasix was not given at the proper time, and it wound up turning into a match race. So, with two very consequential medication mishaps. And so that was the Belmont Derby. And then the 10th race was my race of the day, my family's race of the day. Jack, you were on this horse too. Sammy was on this horse. Frank started slow, started last, circled the field, won by 2 lengths impressively. First-time starter Christophe Clement in the 10th race. Just an absolutely awesome thing. Just
You meant sorry. You mentioned that everybody else was on this horse. The other thing that was on this horse, dinner was on this horse too.
Absolutely right. Yeah, we went out with Jack and Eric after the race, and we had more than enough money to pay for that. So, yeah, everything was awesome. Thanks to Frank Sard, I got that nice $293 double just from getting lucky with Classic Causeway, the big price in the race before. And then, of course, singling Frank Sard, as Sammy said on the video, to the moon! I can't wait to see where he shows up next time, and he will probably be 9-5, so I can't bet him. That was the last big day of the card. I did go back on Sunday as well, and I told you Saturday was the best day I ever had. Sunday, let's spend 5 seconds on it. It was the first day ever at the racetrack where I did not cash a ticket. So did not do well on Sunday at all. And unlike on June 4th and July 1st, the other 2 days on track this meet where I lost, I did not have anything to blame it on this time. June 4th, I could blame Juan Vasquez, the juicer, who's finally suspended for still being allowed to race. I missed out on $200+ there. And on July 1st, I could blame Tom Morley for having a totally impossible 45-1 shot and screwing me out of $255 there. So the other two I have excuses for. July 10th, I just was not close to hitting anything. So my fault, whatever. And that was the meet, everybody. That is a very long and detailed recap of our meets. So we got a few things we're going to do to wrap up here. Going to talk about our results for the meet as far as statistic-wise. And then we'll talk about how everything relates to the rest of the year. So, Jack, would you like to tell these kind ladies and gentlemen out there about the high percentage success you had this meet?
Yes, so as I referenced, I had a very good meet in terms of the percentage. It was 44% for me for the win, which is good we picked 34 races on Racing Rundown. 14 of those horses came back to win. And then I was also picking at a 72% clip in the money. This was also at right in the middle of the nasty, which still continues into Saratoga, by the way, of the nasty streak I've been in of my horses running huge races but not winning. At this point, I'm pretty close to at this point committing for the year to try to get 70% in the money. I'm 66% in the money for the year right now where we stand. And a couple more weeks of the picks running like this, I'm just going to lock in and try to for that 70% in the money and not necessarily and pick for hitting the board and not winning necessarily, but very beneficial there. And the very good meet that I had at Aqueduct over the past 6 or so, or going back to all the way to the winter of 2021 through into the spring this year. Very, very good meet at Aqueduct for me. And I remember thinking closing day at Aqueduct, I had the winner and the closer at Aqueduct, and I was thinking, how the hell am I going to match this at Belmont? And I not only match it, but I topped it. The one thing, I did not turn a profit there because a good chunk of my winners were very short-priced horses. Can't really help that. That's just the way that everything ended up turning out. But certainly having the Belmont Oaks winner, McCulloch Waft, and the other pick that really kind of made sure that we had some, that it wasn't entirely short-priced horses with Shardy Party and the Soaring Softly. That race didn't come up earlier. I'll reference that there. That was another one of my good picks from the meet that wasn't a give me, okay, odds-on horse there. So it was a very good meet for me. If the Man of War didn't happen, it would have been a lot better for me. Or if the Man of War card, I should say, didn't happen, it would have been a lot better. But can't have a successful day every single time.
And I should mention that Jack came very close to turning a profit. He missed by a few picks, like a few extra picks. So he definitely did beat everything except the takeout. It's always the takeout that kills you. My meet, this was the best meet I ever had. This is not to pump me up because I'm telling you right now, I have not made a profit in a year since 2014. And that, I barely went to the track, and I was a lot younger, and I was a lot younger than the available betting age that I should have been. But we'll leave that for another time to discuss about that if the cops want to come get me. I don't think it's that big of a deal. This meet was absolutely tremendous. It was the first time in a while I had big success. There it is right there. Those are the numbers. If you include the bonuses, which I don't know if some people do, but I do because, hey, it's money. It helps us beat the takeout. $954 in profit. That is a very, very nice number. And for the year, I believe into today, because I did hit something today. I hit City Man at Saratoga. Into today, I was up 926 for the year. So I was down a little bit coming into this meet in total. But thank you very much, Belmont. My favorite track, my favorite meet, bailed me out in a very big way. And most of it was those big winners that we touched on through this video. So this is the first time in a really long time that I've shown long-term profit. And how did I do it? By looking at past performances, the smallest I ever have. Literally playing angles, playing first-time starters, and by angles, I pretty much mean my favorite trainers and first-time starters. Christophe Clement, Chad Brown, Bill Mott, Rudy Rodriguez contributed a little bit, Graham Motion contributed a little bit. You wonder why in these videos I pick the same guys over and over, and I kind of just pick trainers and just shout out little things about the horse. Well, it's because they pay me. It's just been working, and I don't really see a reason to stop if it's working. So maybe eventually the luck will run out. I don't think it's luck. I think it's just trying to ride the good train with the good guys that have been doing well for me. But Christophe Clement, especially you, thank you. First-time starters, Vindatude, rest in peace, sweetie. Thank you very much. And thank you to all the horses. And I hate to say this, thanks to all the jockeys as well that gave good rides during this meet. So it was a very, very fun time. And with that being said, everybody, we are going to enter the last little section here of this video. I'm going to keep it very brief, but I'll let Jack go first anyway. What of all these things stood out to you the most, and what stands out to you the most as it relates to Saratoga and the rest of the year?
So it's good that you add the word standout in there, because for this video, I put together I selected 4 horses from the meet as my standouts for the meet. Two fillies and two boys. One dirt, one turf horse in each gender. And I'm going to say that those are my standouts for the meet. I'll do the colts because and they're actually both colts, so that's helpful. I'll do them because they're a little bit more cut and dry. Classic Causeway for me is the turf standout of the meet. I think that the effort that he had in the Belmont Derby showed that he could get the distance, which if you're someone who doesn't like Andy Serling, I personally don't have anything against Andy Serling, but very, very fun moment for him when just erroneously said that Classic Causeway had no chance and said that he would be a better sprinter. Now, could he win sprinting? Certainly. He's got tons of speed, could do that, absolutely. But I never understood the mindset of, oh, you need to cut him back, because he's bred to get distance. He did just fine at Tampa earlier on in the year, and he ran a huge effort in the Belmont Derby. So he's my turf standout for the Colts this year over any of the other horses. Again, I love Tribhuvan, but Classic Causeway I thought was a little bit more impressive in his Belmont Derby than Tribhuvan was there. Not that Tribhuvan wasn't impressive. It was difficult to separate the two from them, but Classic Causeway is my standout for the meet. For turf, for dirt, Jack Christopher. It was difficult to get original with this. It was either him or Mo Donegal, or it was either him, Mo Donegal, or Flightline, and Mo Donegal isn't active, so can't do that. And Jack Christopher, because he's actually going to run more than 2 more times this year, I thought it would be better to include him. And also, his Woody Stevens was just absolutely fantastic. I think he'll win the Haskell next week. I will have a preview for that in Racing Runout, and I will be picking him there. And I don't really see who is going to beat him there. So those are my 2 standouts for the Colts. The fillies are, and my dirt pick might surprise some folks. And this is one of the big miss of the meet, because we didn't do the race on Racing Rundown this week. And that's the Mother Goose winner, Gerrymander. She's my filly standout for the meet. I actually really like her for the coaching club next week at Saratoga. I thought that her victory, I had her in the Mother Goose. Unfortunately, it wasn't a Racing Rundown pick. So if we had picked the Mother Goose on Racing Rundown, I would have turned a profit this Belmont meet. But I thought that was a very, very good effort for her. I always respected the talent she had. And the race at Churchill just wasn't her spot, given the layoff and the fact that it was I shouldn't say that there's another reason. It was just merely the layoff more so than anything else. But she turned in a really, really good effort in the Mother Goose. I don't pick races before they're drawn. It's my rule. Don't do that. But I am very much considering picking her over Nest, who I think is the best 3-year-old filly in the country, and Secret Oath in the coaching club. That's how highly I thought of her Mother Goose. So she's my standout more so than anybody else from this Belmont meet for the for the fillies on the dirt. And then for my turf standout, that's going to be Regal Glory. I think Regal Glory is the best female in Chad Brown's barn. I think, better than and even better than Bleecker Street. Again, I'll go back to the respect I gave her after the Jenny Wiley at Keeneland. I thought that she was going to go on a tear, win a bunch of great, which to this point she has done. I mean, a tear in terms of the one race that she's run in. But I thought that from that point, the Jenny Wiley, she was going to win whatever they ran her in. And I think she'll win the 4-star Dave. I think she'll win the First Lady at Keeneland, and she'll be in a perfect opportunity to win the Breeders' Cup Mile. But I think that she's the best turf female in America, and I think you're going to see plenty of great things come from her. Major, major props to Peter Brandt for keeping this mare around, because it would have been very easy to retire her after the Matriarch last year or after the Pegasus race at Gulfstream, but kept her around, and it's benefited them with 2 Grade 1s, could get a Breeders' Cup out of it. So she's my turf standout. I think she's the best female on the turf in Chad Brown's barn. My favorite for the Eclipse Award right now, even though I despise the Eclipse Awards, but I can't say enough good things about Regal Glory. And also, the really cool note from her is she's keeping on the memory of the late Paul Pompa Jr. as well. So that is one note that I do like to always mention whenever Regal Glory comes up.
And Jack, anything you want to say that shapes up well for Saratoga? What are you excited for up at the spot?
So shaping up for Saratoga, we'll talk about the Diana a little bit. I mean, obviously, you have the horses exiting the New York the two major ones, Rougier and Bleecker Street. We'll see how they run in the Diana. I referenced Nest, who I think is the best 3-year-old filly. You said it earlier. I've said it several times. Nobody's beating her in the Alabama. That's her race to lose. So I'm excited for that. She's going to run in the coaching club, and I think it's a good idea for her to run in the coaching club because I don't like that. Oh, let's just not run until August after the Belmont Stakes. I can't say when Fletcher does it with Colton the Travers, but race won't matter to me. Kind of like the way that I viewed Malathot in the Ogden Phipps. The race didn't matter to me. The coaching club doesn't matter for me for Nest. If she wins, awesome. But the Alabama is the race for her. So obviously I'm very excited for that. The horse that I'm really hoping to have some good come out of for Saratoga is Soldier Rising, who's one of my favorite horses. I've been waiting for him to break through at the stakes level. He came very close in the Grand Couturier running behind your guy there. I'm hopeful that he'll be able to win something up there. He didn't run it, or he actually did run at Belmont. I think in the Kingston, it was a New York bred turf race, but he hasn't been seen since. I'm waiting to get my yearly, or the annual cross-border victory in the Bowling Green. I'm hoping that is going to be the next start for him. I'm hoping that he wins that, makes it 3 in a row, because he'll probably be a pretty decent price there. He loves Saratoga. So, I mean, that's the big thing. I can't wait to play him there. Hopeful for Soldier Rising. And just, we'll see. The Whitney is shaping up to be one of the races of the year because you're going to have Life is Good and Olympiad and several other Grade 1 caliber horses all converge in that race. So we'll get to see who truly is for real there. That's obviously very exciting. Saratoga Derby to Saratoga Oaks. I can't wait for those races. I'll probably wheel back Godolphin there. Definitely, at least with the Saratoga Oaks, maybe also with Saratoga Derby. And then obviously the Travers is shaping up to be one of the best Travers in years, with all the 3-year-olds that we have. Again, unfortunate that Mo Donegal's not going to be there because the easy win pick will miss out on that. And also just because I really do like Mo Donegal. But there's going to be a lot of fun things up at Saratoga. Hopefully we're able to, or at least I'm able to continue the good stuff that I had. I don't know how much you're going to be playing in Saratoga this year. Obviously, hopefully what you do play does hit, but it's been a very good year for me in New York. I'm hopeful that it continues at Saratoga. I can't believe, just on another note, I can't believe we're already at Saratoga. It does not feel like that long ago that it was March and we were at Aqueduct, but that just goes to show you how fast the year is moving by.
Yeah, I could still hear the connections of Morello behind us screaming right after they won the Gotham. It's incredible how fast the year has gone, and unfortunately for my summer vacation, that's for sure. I'm sure yours too. We're not looking forward to go back to school. Can definitely tell you about that. My what I'm looking forward to with Saratoga builds off of Belmont because this is still a Belmont review or recap, whatever you want to call it. Belmont pretty much did two things. It really showed some superstars, Jack Christopher, Regal Glory, examples of that. And then there's divisions that are a little more muddied, like the Phillies, for example. And so what Saratoga is probably going to do, as it usually does, is answer us some questions. The horses that performed really well at Belmont, will they continue to perform well and cement their status as should-be champions no matter what happens in the Breeders' Cup? Or will we get clarity on divisions that are currently muddy? I'd say we're probably going to get both because that's what usually happens. But I just have to say, I think the racing at Belmont was really good. I know a lot of people, especially in the horse racing Discord, could not wait to get out of Belmont. Maybe that's because I did well for a change and other people did not. I don't know. But I certainly had a really good time. And as far as you said, Jack, how much am I playing Saratoga? I'm going to play it more than I have the last 2 years. The last 2 years, I played it one day each time, and that's when I was at Monmouth, just doing simulcasting. But this year, I am going to play a little more. I'm supposed to get a little bit of a bonus from a new ADW I signed up for recently. So once they give me money, I'll have a month to bet that. So I'll have to go through that money. And out of the first 20 races of the meet, these first 2 days, I only played one. And it did wind up being profitable thanks to City Man. So I'm definitely going to be playing more this year. but nowhere near these numbers that you're seeing. I bet at Belmont. I almost handled $4,000 for a small player like me. That's a lot of change right there, and that's almost disturbing that I bet that much at Belmont. But it was a really good time. Thanks for listening, everybody, listening to us blab about the good times that we had this meet, and some of the not so good times as well, of course. But we're really looking forward to Saratoga, and above all else, I'm looking forward to coming back to beautiful Belmont Park sooner rather than later. And I'm sure that will have a major impact on the episode 8 of One Turn Route, which, unless they delay this news until after the Jim Dandy card, I doubt that won't be the next video on my channel. One Turn Route episode 8 about Belmont and how it's being tarnished a little bit will definitely be the next episode on the YouTube channel in general. Jack, anything else you want to say?
I think I have anything else to add aside from, just it was an incredible meet overall, lots of really fun notes, and I hope that when we do come back to Belmont Park, we'll be able to carry on the good work that we did up to this point.
Yep, thank you, beautiful Belmont, and enjoy Saratoga, everybody. Pay your bills first. May the odds be ever in your favor.